And now on the show, we're going to take a look at one of the stranger films of this year, but also one of my favorite films that's come out so far in 2024. It is called All of Us Strangers. And if you were watching the BAFTAs, you would already know a fair bit about this movie because it received a ton of nominations. Now, it is based on a novel, and it's directed by Andrew Haigh. It centers around a character called Adam, played by Andrew Scott, who's a frustrated screenwriter who lives in an apartment building with only one other resident, Harry, played by Paul Mescal. Now, Harry and Adam meet. Harry kind of makes a suggestion that he would like to get to know Adam a little bit more, and at first, Adam doesn't go for it. Now, this is where this movie starts to turn a little bit strange because soon you are introduced to Adam's family. His dad, played by Jamie Bell, and his mum, played by Claire Foy. Now, if you're watching the screen the same way Harley and I were, you'll notice straight away that he is older than his parents. And that's where I'm going to leave that because that becomes something very, very interesting. At the same time, Adam and Harry do start a relationship, but things there are a little bit strange as well. So I'm not going to go too much into the story of this film because I think this is a film that's best for people to go into not knowing very much about. Now, Harley, what did you think of All of Us Strangers? Because you and I kind of went into this quite cold, not knowing what to expect from this film.
Yeah, I came out of it thinking it was fantastic. I absolutely loved this film. Going into it, I felt a bit of displacement. It was interesting. The first seeing them in this big apartment building, but they're like the only two residents, seemed so weird. And immediately I thought, okay, this must be set somewhere in Asia. This is the only kind of that's how it looked to me, the setting and everything. And
Yeah.
then
You know what I thought?
and
I,
then
I
five
thought
minutes
that,
later, he's like, you know, he's gone down the road and he's visiting his parents, a few towns, suburbs, whatever
yeah,
cities over. And I'm like, no, he couldn't have gone overseas that quickly and then gone home that night. No, I'm pretty sure it is set somewhere in the UK, but what? And it was only later on that we had the talk from the director that said, "Oh, it's based on a Japanese novel," and I'm like, I knew it was Asian.
I actually thought that he'd moved into that apartment building during COVID. And because of the lockdowns and the pandemic, no one else had moved in yet. That was my initial thought.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. It just seemed, but at the same time, it's like, would it have been opened and construction finished for people to move in if it was done during COVID? Like, yeah, I don't know. It just all those questions was like, okay, this
Yeah,
is weird. But then you just get caught up in the story and it's really interesting. Now, I do have to say it was quite a slow burn to kind of figure out your lead characters. Um, he's kind of sitting there wasting his life away a bit. He's a writer, a screenwriter, but he spends the whole day just like, you think, is he like suicidal or something? He's just lying on the couch. He looks just like ready to like give up on life. And then after he's wasted his whole day lying on the couch, he turns the TV off and thinks, okay, now it's time to start writing. And it's the end of the day, and it's like, okay, I guess I can understand that feeling sometimes. But yeah, it was just really interesting to try and unwrap what the story is because you don't go into it knowing a lot, or at least I didn't know anything going into it. So I didn't have any expectation. I just thought the story will reveal itself as it happens. But I
yeah,
found it took quite a while to get a grasp on the characters a bit. And that's just because of that very insular nature of, you know, he's just being, what was his name? Adam. Yeah. Um, he's very solitary in his life. There's like no one in his life. You don't see him interact with anyone until he kind of meets one of his building neighbors. But even then, he's reticent to have any proper interaction, and then you sort of see him regret it. But so there's a really slow kind of peeling of the onion of, the layers to get to him and what his backstory is, and as he opens up, and that's the real journey of this story, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But look, I just found this story captivated me from the very start. There was just something about this film, the way it looked, the performances very early on of Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal.
Mm.
It just completely drew me in. And then, like I said, that scene where you see his parents for the first time and he's older than them, it's like, what is this? Like, I started to think, is this kind of like a sci-fi fantasy of some like dystopian kind of future? Um, yeah, it just because I didn't know anything about the film going into it, I was like, is it a romantic drama? Is it, yeah, does it have an element of fantasy or sci-fi? Like it, I even started to think, is it going to go into like a kind of Blade Runner kind of thing? Like I was wondering where it was heading, but I was just, it wasn't that kind of confusion that makes you angry and is like, oh, I don't want to watch this. It was that kind of confusion that just makes you go, I need to see this. I need to know what's
Yeah, I
happening. I
gotta
need to
keep
know.
watching. It's like it's sucking me in so bad. Like when he goes to his hometown and suddenly there's a guy in the background and you think, oh wait, is it the neighbor? And then no, it's a different person and he's following this person like he recognizes them. So it's like, where is this person leading him? And it's kind of at a distance. And then you realize that's his father. His father's found him out in the middle of a field that he's just been hanging out in and has led him home. And this is where,
Yeah,
his story and character starts to unpeel a bit. But it's just like continuous mystery. I'm like, hang on, I need to get a hold of this. What's going on? And there is a slight point there where it's like, if I don't know more in a few minutes, like I think I'm gonna go crazy. But it plays out
yeah,
really well. Yeah.
yeah. And the performances as well are brilliant. Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal, like I said, are amazing in their roles, but also Jamie Bell and Claire Foy are stunning in theirs. But the screenplay as well, it really wakes up your emotions. There were times when I was watching this film where I felt tears welling in my eyes just because the story was getting to me in such a way. So, yeah, for me, I just thought this was an absolutely brilliant, amazing film.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to watching it and I thought, yeah, you know what? I can kind of relate to the Adam character in some ways. And then Paul Mescal's character of Harry turns up and it's like, you know what? Yeah, I don't know what to feel, but I also feel a bit, he's this stranger that turns up all of a sudden, and so you're kind of on guard, so you know what Adam's feeling, but at the same time you start to think, I can see this guy's kind of lonely as well. So
Yeah,
I think there's something, if anyone's sort of had that feeling of, you know, being alone or cut off or whatever, kind of wanting to reach out to someone, but not being able to for whatever internal reason you have. There was something there about these two kind of scared and damaged characters that it's like, who do I relate to more, actually? It sort
yeah,
of changes back and forth a little bit. But there's enough there to keep you going and want to see more. You're into this. It's like, where is this relationship going?
definitely. So, what are you going to give this one out of five and why?
Oh, I I think I really want to say five, but I think I'm going to say 4.5. Just well, what I'm going to say as a negative is actually kind of a positive. So yeah, like I said, it takes a long while to start figuring out the characters and what the story actually is, what's going on here. Um, it can get to the point of like real frustration, which I think some audience might get put off by, but the payoff is absolutely worth it. Um, so see, I kind of want to say five when I say that. Four and a half. I'll say four and a half. I think the look of it is brilliant. Performances, all of them in the film are just brilliant, and you get a sense of all these characters, and you're emotionally involved with all of them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, really well done. As we mentioned, it's based on a Japanese novel, but it diverges greatly from that novel. But it's curious enough to we've both said we really want to read this novel now. The novel is a very different monster.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not quite what this is, and this is very much character drama and stuff. So with a twist. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 4.5 stars. It was just a fantastic film. I could watch this again.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it again as well. I actually did give this 5 stars. It's one of those films that I think is going to stay with me for a long, long time. Like I said, the way it looks, the story itself, the emotions that it creates inside you, the performances, everything just comes together so perfectly well. I would actually really like to see this adapted as a stage play. I think it would look brilliant on the stage as well. But I'm going to give this one 5 stars. Harley gave it 4.5. Now, if you're in Australia and listening to this, you're kind of lucky because this film is still showing in cinemas. It's in select cinemas, but it's also on a couple of streaming platforms now as well. So, yeah, you can watch it in the cinema if you want to, or if you want to watch it in the comfort of your home, it is there as well. So, check your local cinema guide to see which cinemas it's showing in, and check out something like Just Watch or an app like that to check to see what streaming platforms it's on. But I gave All of Us Strangers 5 stars, and Harley gave it 4.5.